Okay, so like I said, thank you for joining on tonight's companion animal webinar for the topic enrichment for dogs. Like I said, we'll be going over why enrichment is important for our dogs, the different types of enrichment, and then I will also talk about some specific 4-H enrichment, so dog shows and things that you can do for youth to provide enrichment, that they can all provide enrichment for their dogs. If any of you guys have questions at the end or during the webinar, I'll have a little question slide at the end, and you guys can feel free to unmute yourself or ask questions in the chat box. I do have my dogs with me in the room, so hopefully they don't cause too much noise while we do this webinar. So just to start off, what is enrichment? What do you think of when we think of the word enrichment? Enrichment for pets means that the pet owner is providing them with an activity, mental stimulation, maybe physical stimulation, that will make them think or work for a reward. Enrichment can consist of a variety of activities. So if you can ideally give your dog all of the different types of enrichment, that's the ideal situation. Usually the pet attempts to solve some sort of problem. So the mental stimulation, those treat puzzles where they have to find out where the treat is with their nose, or their physical enrichment, playing fetch, maybe learning new tricks. So that's physical and mental. And so today we'll be discussing a few. But first, why is it important? So just like us, imagine yourself, you're sitting in a room alone, no TV, no books, no nothing, you can't do anything, kind of like you're grounded. You can't do anything, so you go stir crazy when you don't do anything for a long period of time. You get bored. Dogs also get very bored, and enrichment provides them a way to combat that boredom without doing negative behaviors such as destroying your sofa, eating or chewing on some shoes, which we do know that dogs do those types of negative behaviors. Enrichment also provides dogs with a way to practice some of their instinctual behaviors. So food searching, if you have a certain type of breed of dog. So for example, if you have a herding dog, a blue heeler, ideally, if you can give your dog the opportunity to go onto a farm and use their instincts for herding, that would be great, especially since it's kind of specific to their own breed. Enrichment is important because like I said, it provides a natural outlet for behaviors, also gives them a way to exercise their senses such as taste and smell. It also makes them think, so keeping their boredom from kind of spilling over into negative behaviors. And then it is also an important way to give your dog access to something other than just walking them, or if you're at work all day and they're cooped up, it gives them something else to do. So essentially like toys. The first thing we'll talk about, the first type of enrichment would be with food. So food bowls are old news. Everyone uses food bowls. So feeding times, use feeding times as opportunities for training. I know some people can make their dogs sit, or maybe do a handshake before they let their dog eat their food. I know for me, I kind of trick my dogs, so their go ahead to go eat their food would be their names, or okay. The word okay is what I usually use. So I kind of trick them and be like, potato, and hopefully they don't move and they understand that they have to wait until I say the special word. So that can be a fun little activity you can do with your dog. Food can be used in a variety of ways. So instead of buying those dog treats, if you don't want to spend an arm and a leg for just a specific fun dog treats, you can always use their kibble when you're doing training or any sort of activity, because their body's already used to it, their stomach's already used to that food. So it's also an easy way to kind of save money on buying specific dog treats. At the very least, dogs can benefit simply from having to do a couple tricks before they get their food bowl. So like I said, that's what I do. Or I do a quick training session where you can do, well, I'll have a video where you can make your own Sensi mat is what I like to call it, but it's a very frilled, I want to say blanket, but it's specifically for enrichment that you can hide little pieces of dog food in to kind of mentally stimulate your dog. And then next would be combining all of them. So food, toys, and puzzles. You guys always see at those those dog companies, so Petco, PetSmart, they always have toys which are great for you to buy and great for your dogs, obviously specific ones for specific sizes of dogs. So the good ones are classic examples would be the Kong ball, and then any of these other treat types of balls or toys that you can hide treats, which kind of require the dog to work through the problem of how they get the treat out of the toy. Commercial toys can be filled with healthy treats. So yes, you can, they have those little spray cans where you can put your treats in, but knowing if you correct fruits or veggies, or even just their own food would also be fine to stick in if you don't want to go out and buy one. So since there are many options of dog toys, especially if you buy any, make sure you know the difficulty that you'd like for your dogs. So if your dog's very new to these enrichment items, maybe don't get them a super complicated hiding food toy. So I know mine got really frustrated with the ones where they have to move the ball around to have the kibble come out of it. So he ended up just chewing on the whole ball instead of actually doing the enrichment activity. So knowing your dog's mental enrichment level would also be good to know before you buy those expensive toys. Like I said, healthy treats. Know the correct healthy treats if you plan on feeding them what I call like human food. So apples, carrots, green beans, peanut butter, but be careful of using peanut butter because some of the peanut butter does have xylitol, which is a sweetener that is very toxic to dogs. So be very careful when you're using certain types of peanut butter. But the options are endless. So you can kind of get very creative with these different types of enrichment activities. Other than just buying your enrichment activities, you can always make them. That's what I tend to do. I tend to have a lot of the things that you can use to make your own. Food-based enrichment can be made at home. So I have a muffin tin game. You either put these little balls in the muffin tin can with food at the bottom, and it requires the dog to think through, how do I get to that food? Hopefully they figure out by taking the ball out and having that food in there. This, on our next slide, we'll actually talk about how you can hide treats in a little frilled blanket so that stimulates their mental enrichment, but then also they still get that rewarding food at the end of the game, I should say. And then one thing I really wanted to touch on would be, we all have toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls. You can make your own little treat dispensers. It might get a little messy because dogs sometimes tend to rip it apart if they can't get to that point, but these little holes in the ends of the toilet paper rolls or the paper towel rolls help dispense the treats or the food as they roll them around. So that would be an interesting one. All kinds of games. So options such as this one that this dog is doing. If you want to get creative and you have the time to make fun enrichment activities, the dog has to flip over the plastic bottle in order to get the treat from the bottom. I have not seen a dog do that, but it would be fun to see if your own dog would be able to do it. And also, please be careful when you are making homemade activities to watch your dog when they are doing these enrichment. You never know if you're trying something new, if For example, they use paper towel rolls. Your dog just eats the whole thing rather than actually doing the enrichment process. So always being there with your dog so you can kind of have an eye out in case they're chewing on things that they're not supposed to or not doing it correctly. Make sure that all the games you choose for your dog are safe and supervised. So we'll do this quick, I'll play this quick 4-minute toy, which is really easy to make, but then it's also a great mental stimulation for your dog if you do plan on wanting to add something to their enrichment. Please let me know in the chat if you are able to hear it. I'm hoping you will.
I'm Melissa, the founder of ProudDogMom.com. Welcome back to my channel. If you are a regular here, you may realize that things look a little different behind me, and that's because we're normally in my kitchen whipping up some healthy dog treats. But today we have a different type of DIY dog project in store. We are going to be making something called a snuffle mat. So it's an interactive dog toy where it has a whole bunch of fleece strips, and you hide treats underneath the strips. Your dog has to use his nose and that like tracking ability to go and find all of the treats. Really a brain game for our dogs. They're wonderful for that. And they also have a lot of fun, and it's just a great way to keep them stimulated and active and busy. So, all right, let's get crafting. All right, to make our DIY snuffle mat, we're going to need a couple of things. The first thing is going to be some fleece. I've got some old fleece blankets here. So if you've got some blankies that you don't mind cutting up and giving to your dog, you can just go ahead and grab those. And then the next thing you're going to need is some sort of a base. So traditionally, people use a sink mat as their base for their snuffle mat. They have a really good weight to them. They're very sturdy. And also, and this is the biggest benefit, they already have holes throughout the entire mat. But I totally understand that not everyone has a sink mat just sitting in their house waiting to be used for crafting purposes. So if you don't and you want to make this right now, you can easily replicate that with cardboard. So this actually was an Amazon box that I used a box cutter, and I just carefully cut out a solid piece. And then I went around. So about every inch, you want to make, with a Sharpie marker, a little dot, and that's going to be where you're going to make some holes. And you can easily make holes with a screwdriver. And I think that that is a really great alternative if you don't have a sink mat. It's time to cut the fleece. Aim to make each strip about 1 inch wide and about 6 to 8 inches long. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Now that we have all of our fleece strips cut, we are going to take them and weave them through our mat. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one end, push it through one hole, and then we're going to take the other end, and the hole right next to it is going to be strung through there. And then we're going to just make a little tie on the other side. I'm going to do that same exact process in this same exact direction throughout the whole entire mat. This is looking pretty good. Now with our other color, we're going to go in the opposite direction. Since there's already a lot of fabric on here, things may start to feel a little tight. You can either use a capped pen or a baby screwdriver or something else that you have lying around to help you push the fabric through. All right, we are done. And here is what our snuffle mat looks like. How cool is that? It's all filled with the fleece strips. Here's what it looks like in the back. You can really get a good sense of that pattern, right? So one color in one direction, the other color in the other direction. Pretty easy to remember, right? So next thing you want to do is give it to your dog. I mean, first we're going to fill it with some treats, obviously. And I'm just going to break them into little pieces. Now, if your dog has never done a snuffle mat before, I would recommend just putting some right on the top to let your dog see what is inside, right? Like let them see the treats. But once they get really good at the snuffle mat and they know kind of what they're doing, I would say get on in there, put some down at the bottom, make them dig. Here we go. I'm going to give it to my dog to play with. If you think your dog would love a snuffle mat like this, give the video a big thumbs up. And if you think you're going to make a snuffle mat like this, also give the video a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell so you get notified.
So that was a nice little example of a homemade enrichment activity, because I certainly have fleece blankets and cardboard laying around my house, but that's just activity you can do at home. Other enrichment types would be physical activity. So things that make your dog work. Food doesn't have to be used. So I know a lot of dogs, they love going to dog parks or going on walks or any sort of physical activity. They get really excited. So you can use things such as training, dog sports, and very long walks to help with the boredom and different types of enrichment. Specifically, I would like to talk about would be for activities for youth with dogs or interested in doing something with their dogs, to kind of give them a environment where they can both do something together as a team. 4-H is a great program where youth, if they have a dog or would like to start working with their dog, it's usually pretty easy to start, and you can get help from your local county office about how to get started, maybe getting into your own little dog to any 4-H dog shows. Signing up for 4-H is free, but then also the dog shows go from very beginners. So those youth and those dogs that are just learning the basics, so sit, come here, maybe lay down. They have great classes for super beginner dogs and youth. So enrichment activities for that, specifically for youth and 4-H, would be a great activity to think about for any parents that would also enjoy that for their kids and their dogs. So training is a different type of physical enrichment activity. Makes your dog's mind work and it builds trust, but also working with your dog. I know we have long work days. Being able to have that one-on-one time with your dogs is also very beneficial for your relationship. Dogs can benefit from any sort of training, so basic obedience, teaching them how to sit or stay, to cool tricks, maybe play dead or give you a hug. It doesn't really matter, just depending on your dog's abilities. You can train your dog yourself. I just used YouTube to show you that homemade snuffle mat. So I know there's a whole bunch of other YouTube videos on how to train your dogs. Obviously, every dog is different on how you train them with their experience and what they know and their breed. So just finding the correct type of training would be best for if you do want to start training your dog. Or you can do those professional trainings, pay for those 8-week classes. I'm sure, especially depending on your trainer or business that you go to, your dogs would definitely benefit to training such as that. Other training to not just think about, I want to say tricks or obedience, would also be to help your dog's training socially. Training can be, if you have a very reactive dog to other dogs, maybe fixing that negative behavior, and whether you do it yourself or you get help from a professional. Social training, so making sure those negative behaviors are kind of minimized as you are working with them. Dog sports, if you guys don't know, there's a bunch of dog sports out there. Agility, which is also offered in 4-H. So those obstacles where they have to do jumps, go through a tunnel, go through a little boardwalk type of thing for beginners or even super to experienced people. Fly ball, disc dog, kind of like the one pictured. Rally is also another thing, another activity that is offered in 4-H. Scent work, like we kind of with the snuffle mat, and then any trick training, like I said. And if you really do want to know more about any different types of sports, agility, showmanship, obedience, especially if you go to akc.org, they have a whole library of the different sports and information if you would like to learn more. Other enrichment activities, dogs can benefit from all kinds. So even this simple tub full of tennis balls, or if you have different types of balls, make sure they don't get ripped up really easily, can be really easy. So be very creative and fun onto what you would like your dogs to do. Like I said, all dogs are different. Some dogs don't care for food. Some dogs love toys. Some dogs love exercise. Like I said, kind of figure out from your location what is offered. If you don't know, you can always ask your local extension office, and they can either point you in the right direction or provide you the correct information also.